everybody, welcome back to TechViews Unplugged from CA Technologies. I'm Andy Mann. I'm here with the ever-exciting George Watt. How you doing, George?
I'm fantastic, Andy. Thank you.
Good to hear, mate. Let's get straight into it. Green power is a really big topic where I live. So I'm in Boulder, Colorado, right? We're very environmentally conscious. We voted for municipal wind power this last election cycle, greenhouse gas reduction, lots of other green initiatives. Interestingly, this is where IBM's Showcase Green Data Center is or was. IBM continues to innovate in cloud and in green. And the latest one, they've patented technology for distributing compute workloads for cloud computing in a way that reduces power consumption. Now, this is pretty interesting. I'd liken it to a load balancer, but instead of trying to reduce response times, they're trying to reduce power utilization overall. Now, it's really interesting because the article that I read pointed out this is not just a green initiative, but this is a cost-saving opportunity for cloud service providers. It's like my former colleague at Enterprise Management Associate, Steve Brayson, once said, green is the color in your wallet. It's not just the color of the trees, right? So this power consumption is a major cost driver for cloud service providers. Often it's pay-as-you-go for storage, for compute, even for bandwidth, but no one's really charging for power utilization. So this is a way for cloud service providers to reduce their on-cost, their sunk cost, and improve their margins without having to charge their customers more. So it's green, but it's also green for your wallet. Smart move.
Yeah, absolutely. I can believe that because it's what we experienced as well when I was in the cloud providing game there. And in fact, it is true. Every time we were greener, it was most of the time because we reduced consumption, and reduced consumption is reduced cost, and that actually set us up for some really interesting conversations with executives because we had a story for each of them. So the chief sustainability officer, the conversations with her were around the carbon reduction. The conversations with the CFO were around the cost reductions, but it was really the same thing doing both. And I agree. There's certainly been what you might call a flurry of green cloud announcements recently, right? Facebook, they just announced that their new data center will be entirely wind powered when it opens in 2015, just over a year, I guess, or so. And originally I thought that meant they were planning to build it near one of our legislature buildings there, but apparently this one's going to be in Iowa, which has strong wind resources, and they're working with a local utility company, which will create a 138 megawatt wind farm not far from the data center. And they'll also take advantage of energy efficiency design factors that are based on their open compute architecture. And Facebook's ultimate goal is to have a quarter of its global energy consumption from clean power by 2015 as well. That's a magic year, I guess.
Yeah, it's a pretty good outcome. And this is the same thing that I think we're seeing in a lot of places. Probably the same sort of motivation behind Google. They're apparently, according to an article I read, they're about to invest an additional 450 million euro into a data center they've got in Hamina, Finland. Now, this is not a new data center. That actually opened in 2011, but they're putting a lot more into it. And this one uses cold water from the Baltic Sea to power its requirements for cooling. So lots of different options.
Yeah, it's certainly a case of location, location, location. I guess that's a new green mantra. And it looks like we're figuring out which of the clean options is best for each location as well, because they all seem to work better in one scenario versus another. But David Linthicum made a great point in one of his recent articles where he called all these claims full of smoke, if you will. And despite how that might initially sound, it actually appears Linthicum's a fan of green initiatives. But his point is that reducing consumption, as you said earlier, is even more important. And he does have a point. Energy that you don't need to generate has no footprint, right? It has no negative effect. Yeah. And he argues that cloud data centers use much less power to serve the same number of customers as traditional data centers. And this alone leads to an order of magnitude reduction in emissions. And I have to say that that's been my personal experience as well, is that the model itself is green. A while ago, I published an article that was entitled Peeling the Cloud's Green Onion that described how we discovered the green benefits with our cloud, the ones that Linthicum alludes to. And early in our cloud journey, we discovered that. If I recall, we were able to achieve 6,200 ton reduction in emissions very, very early on, before we were even deliberately looking for green savings. And to David's point, we called that collateral greenage, right? Because being greener, that wasn't our primary objective initially, but over time we were able to get more deliberate about it, including the kind of green action he mentions. and include that in our cloud architecture. And that led to even more green benefits. So I believe his point is legitimate. The cloud paradigm itself is a green paradigm. So we should focus on that as well as other things such as clean power and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, George, I'm loving that we're talking about cloud again.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. I'm going to stick with cloud. I'm going to switch continents and topics, though. Over in Europe, privacy is a big thing, right? We know that. We've been talking about that. Now, SAP European Chairman Frank Cohen has backed some pretty progressive EU rules on data privacy. This is part of a quest for what he says, and I quote, a European cloud that is trustworthy, secure, and ambitious, which I'll get to in a second. This is backed by 23 partner organizations across 11 different countries. And there's a lot of real issues here, right? It's not just the NSA-style intrusions that we've been talking about and everyone's been talking about a lot, but it's also the more mundane or known issues, data leakage, the ability to share PII across cloud providers, the effectiveness of the EU safe harbour legislation, cross-border issues. Sure, there's national security involved here. But, and this is the interesting, ambitious part of it, this is all about doing good cloud business. Part of what Cohen says is that a trustworthy Euro cloud is a good business opportunity. It's a way to lure businesses into European cloud providers and keep the European businesses that are already using those providers as a way to drive business opportunity for Europe and specifically for European cloud providers. So some really interesting thinking there on what does it mean to be secure and private in this world.
Yeah, in fact, I spoke to some reporters here in Canada about the same issues surrounding Canada and how that's an opportunity, And there are some countries, on the data privacy issue that actually have constitutions that state certain types of data can't go outside their borders. So it's a really interesting issue. Now, I've been reading about many of the things you've been mentioning as well in other contexts, and it seems to me like Snowden's created an industry here, right? And there are even calls in Europe for what are some are calling the creation of a European cloud champion. One European cloud, if you will, likening it to how Airbus was created to compete with Boeing in the 1960s. And these calls are coming from a broad spectrum of people, which is interesting, right? Including senior politicians, the likes of EU Commission Vice President Viviane Reding, who sees this as a sales argument, is what she called it. Which, to your point, right? So a sales argument for European businesses, a business opportunity, if you will. And data protection is certainly the type of visceral issue that could really be the stuff of political campaigns. For example, a recent study by the Cloud Security Alliance found 56% would be less likely to use a US-based cloud service because of privacy concerns. So I think we'll see much more discussion of this nature, and this isn't going to go away quietly.
No, and Forrester analyst James Staten a while back, actually after the Snowden thing, put a number on how much business, billions of dollars, the US cloud providers could lose because of all this. But don't count them out yet. There was an article that I read about Silicon Valley nerds, their words, not mine, from Google, Facebook, Yahoo, strengthening the encryption on email and social media, specifically to distance themselves from this problem of NSA intrusion. So according to the article, Google is adopting complex encryption, doubling the length of its digital keys, adopting measures to detect fraudulent website certificates. Meanwhile, Yahoo and Facebook are adopting 2048-bit encryption, which NIST says is going to be unbreakable until at least 2030. Now, it's interesting, though, this is a good start, right? But there's a lot of other avenues of penetration and data leakage and all sorts of other things. So encryption is a good start. The article actually says this is a good start, but it's not foolproof. So look, don't count out US providers yet, but stay tuned to this space. There's more to learn here, right?
Yeah, it's certainly an exciting space.
Absolutely. Hey, George, we're out of time for news. Let me prepare the buzzer round here because we're going to go into new and cool. I'm going to start out and I'm going to ask you, and George, your time starts now. You recently wrote that Salesforce's new Superpod announcement means the SaaS provider has accepted private cloud is real. Is this finally the death of the true cloud myth?
Well, I never thought that discussion was of a ton of value, but I'm happy to welcome another camper to Camp Hybrid. Andy, Samsung promised that they would have foldable phones by 2015. Will they corner the market?
Oh, George. Look, I was on the edge of my seat. But I'm just bummed I have to wait until 2015, mate. Washpo says that people are changing their internet habits to avoid the NSA from snooping on them. How are you avoiding internet snooping? I
hacked into your credentials.
That would explain it.
I think it's great people becoming more privacy savvy. Even if there were no NSA, that'd be a good thing. Andy, Michael Davis of Information Week Government says it's not mobile security, it's just security. What do you say?
Look, mate, to quote David Byrne, same as it ever was, right? It just shows that mobile's becoming mainstream. George, the Smithsonian Institute is providing online 3D rendering of their exhibits. Oh, buzzer question. And it's even making templates available so you can 3D print your own. What Smithsonian exhibit are you going to 3D print first?
I think your buzzer needs a lozenge. I think this is outstanding, right? They're even making a more detailed data available so people can 3D print the artifacts. And not only does that have my personal propeller spinning at NerdCon 1, if you will, but I think it can have an outstanding impact in things like education, not just having the ability to look at a 3D rendering online, but having the ability to physically present it in 3D and be able to touch and study it. Though, printing a full-scale model of the Space Shuttle Enterprise might be a touch expensive and tough to fit in your basement, but I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I love to see stuff like this. Hey, mate, that's all we got time for, but before we go, gotta have the shameless plug. If you're wondering how to create and launch and manage better customer communities, have I got the Christmas gift for you. It's a new CA Press book, Developing B2B Social Communities. It's available now on CA Press, on A Press, and on Amazon. And hey, look, as long as you're there, why don't you grab a copy of The Innovative CIO? The perfect stocking stuffer for that innovative geek in your life. Hey, George, it's been great. Have a great holiday season. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, and everything else you're doing. Lovely to talk to you on TechViews Unplugged. For my colleague, George Watt from CA Technologies, I'm Andy Mann, also of CA Technologies, and we'll see you in the new year on TechViews Unplugged. Bye-bye.
Take care.